The theme chosen this year, Respond, Recover, Renew, is of utmost relevance. The COVID crisis illustrates well the need for all political and economic actors within democratic societies to adapt to the new situation and to the new sanitary, social, economic, and political challenges. Therefore, for its priorities for the upcoming mandate of 5 years, the Congress has decided to focus on 5 thematic areas: to improve the quality of representative democracy, to reduce inequalities, to address environmental issues and climate action, and to harness digitalization and artificial intelligence. The Congress will continue to promote open government principles in its work, and it is our aspiration to strengthening links and trust between governments and citizens. In today's interconnected world, and even more within the current sanitary crisis, building effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions at all levels requires a strong open government partnership of all stakeholders concerned. The current situation caused by the COVID pandemic shows once more that local and regional authorities are at the forefront of coping with its negative impacts in all spheres of the community's life and to react to the needs of the citizens. Despite a very complex context, the crisis has also united us and highlighted the need for solidarity and sharing experiences to address the challenges of today, including to advance the accountability and transparency, to tackle systemic inequalities and to enhance citizen participation. Although the crisis has taken its toll on local and regional authorities, mayors and councillors are finding new ways of engaging and they are offering new insights. I'm very confident that they will be at the forefront of the recovery as well. And this year, 2021, could be a turning point in this regard and can bring new opportunities. We are happy to see that many municipalities, towns, cities, and regions of Ukraine are participating today in this online marathon and share their experiences to encourage their peers, other mayors and local and regional politicians and administrations under their authority to further engage with new open government strategies and innovative practices. In this regard, the Congress will continue to support municipalities and cities and their national associations to enhance citizen participation and advance public ethics throughout several tools that are key for COVID recovery and for tackling some of the challenges that characterize our societies today. We are prompted to reflect on how to boost innovation and address the issues of political polarization, mistrust in politicians and democratic institutions, voters' apathy, the context of misinformation and disinformation, just to name a few. We are currently working on a recommendation on deliberative democracy, which is a way of responding to citizens' disenchantment with democratic processes and putting citizens' deliberations at the center of decision-making. It is also a useful method in complex situations, including to overcome ethnic, linguistic, and political divides. The Congress is currently supporting the implementation of a citizens' assembly in Mostar in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and we hope that soon Ukrainian municipalities will explore the new wave of deliberative experimentation underway. There is a lot to learn from each other. In addition, we in the Congress consider that the development of e-governance tools and addressing the topic of digitalization and artificial intelligence in the local context is very important. Such tools help to promote transparency and openness in the activities of public institutions and can help to enhance the effectiveness of the provision of services to citizens. They expand the opportunities for electronic participation and increase financial capabilities and investment attractiveness of local communities. But we have to be aware as well there are risks and challenges for privacy. So we have to strike the balance between making full use of these possibilities and respecting the citizens' privacy. Another example for innovation is the online Be Open tool, which provides practical guidance on public ethics, accountability, transparency, and citizen participation. It gives quick and easy online access to relevant international standards and the domestic contexts, legislation, case law, guidelines, guidance, and good practice in a number of countries, including Ukraine, and therefore is a very useful tool to get inspiration and benchmarks. Our tools also include pan-European activities such the European Local Democracy Week, an initiative run by the Congress very successfully with the participation from cities and regions all over Europe. This European Local Democracy Week helps to boost local democracy and to encourage citizen participation and to launch a dialogue. I know, and I'm very pleased that several Ukrainian cities are active participants each year in this initiative, and I would like to thank them for their commitment. Ladies and gentlemen, in the Congress, we believe that it is of utmost importance to effectively engage with all stakeholders to source ideas and to co-create solutions for the ultimate benefit of citizens. Citizen participation is an important contribution to the improvement of the quality of the results of representative democracy. At many occasions, the Congress has stressed that there is a need for collaboration and consultation between the national and the local levels, for multi-level governance and strong partnerships. And this approach is equally supported by the Open Government Partnership through the renewed local strategy and program that enables local and regional authorities to contribute in a meaningful manner to the design and implementation of national OGP action plans. Ukraine is now in the spotlight of the Open Government Partnership, and I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate the Association of Ukrainian Cities for its comprehensive approach to supporting its members and for its proactive approach in the dialogue on the Open Government Partnership initiative in Ukraine. Also, the Secretariat of the Cabinet of Ministers has played a key role in this endeavor, showing openness to new collaboration. The platform for national local dialogue on open government that we launched jointly a few weeks ago, as well as the composition of the new coordination council that now includes a national association of local authorities, the 50 events for the Open Government Week, and the 3 OGP locals are great achievements. To conclude, I would like to underline that the Congress will continue to support Ukraine in implementing open government innovations, to promote a more transparent and inclusive local governments, and to pursue the national central local dialogue between all stakeholders. We look forward to continuing this good cooperation with all of you to further facilitate knowledge transfer and sharing and the dissemination of good practices. I look forward to listening to the presentations and to learn about the innovative practices that you have applied in open government in your respective cities, municipalities, and regions. I wish you a fruitful and very interesting marathon this afternoon, and I hope to see you soon in person in Ukraine to discuss the progress that you have made, or at one or another occasion here in Strasbourg. I'm looking forward to a very interesting afternoon.
Thank you very much, Andreas, for your opening words, for your words of welcome. Yes, this event, as I've said, has been organized jointly by the Association of Ukrainian Cities and the Congress of Local and Regional Authorities of the Council of Europe. And I'd like to give the floor to the Mayor of Kyiv, Chair of the Association of Ukrainian Cities, Vitaly Klitschko.
Sehr geehrter Andreas Giffer, Дуже радий всіх бачити.
I'm very happy to see you all. Shall I speak Ukrainian or English?
Якщо зручніше, якщо можливо українською, у нас
Perhaps Ukrainian, please, because most of our audience is Ukrainian.
Proposal of Ukrainian. That's why I switch my English to Ukrainian. Дорогі колеги, дорогой.
Dear colleagues, dear Mr. Kiefer, well, first of all, I would like to address you all with one request. I only have a couple of minutes. I will have to leave you soon, but I am with you with my heart and soul. I completely support all the initiatives, and I understand that this is my area of responsibility as regards the reforms taking place in the capital city of Ukraine, because the city of Kyiv is an example for all the cities, for all the municipalities in Ukraine. And all of this is reflected all over on the rest of Ukraine. That's number one. Number two, our main objective today to enhance local self-government, because this is the fundamentals, the basement of any state. Powerful local communities is what changes our life of every person. And in that respect, the reforms of the local self-government are the key related to the reforms in Ukraine in general. As soon as the reform of the local self-government is finalized, we will see important changes all over the country. And I'm sure that we have a lot of responsibility for it. That's kind of in general about the key elements. We're doing everything for it, and we are very grateful to our partners. And I would like to thank Mr. Kiefer as the person who in Strasbourg heads one of the key areas. Without partners, without their experience, without such crucial programs and areas of development, we could not reach the standards that are so important for this country, for all of us. The standards are simple. Let me remind you that in order to have better services, to have work, to have jobs, to have money, to have good infrastructure, in order to have good education, healthcare, and all of this is based, and all of that is the task of the local communities. I am sure that a lot depends on us. Moreover, unfortunately, recently, we have seen many situations where our local initiatives would not always be attractive for the central government. We depend on the central government in many ways, and our task is always to find solutions that would meet the interests of our communities, but also look at the general picture of all of the country. Sometimes there are situations where some government authorities try to stop the reforms on the local level. This is inadmissible in the civilized world. Now, we also sometimes have situations when such things happen in the capital city, and I've talked to mayors of other cities where there have been many situations where they use law enforcement as an instrument of exerting pressure. I understand the central government would always have this temptation, but for sure we need to fight for our interests, to work on them. And unfortunately, today we still have such a key element as fairness and compliance with the standards that we were discussing, the European standards. I can just tell you that I can tell you about some manipulations taking place, starting with 2015, where the Department of Internal Financial Control and Audit has conducted 385 checks and inspections, has given the results to the law enforcement, which were just sitting on the shelf for some time, and now they have come to us and they tell us that they have found those files. And I tell them, we have given you these files. Why have you waited for so long? Being so idle, and now with our files, with our documents, you have come here and accuse us of Well, there are many nuances. I'm not complaining. I can tell you that all of us face many challenges, but the key job for all of us and the best responses would be our success. What is success? Changes that are taking place in the communities, new streets, new kindergartens, new facilities, new services, and a better life for all of those people. And we, as the local mayors, we know well what is happening, what the challenges there are. We're very grateful to our international friends who are supporting us in finding solutions to those reforms. We're very grateful to all the colleagues who are joining us because only by joining our effort, you know, as a boxer, you know that I had some boxing past. Each of your fingers is quite strong, but when you put them together, that's much becomes much stronger. And I'm convinced that our job is to bring our efforts together, to unite in front of the challenges we're facing today. Once again, I'd like to thank our international partners who are supporting us, who are showing us the way, and we are using their successful European experience to implement it here in this country. Thank you very much for your attention. And I am sorry again, I will have to run. Now I have a very, very important thing to do. So I really apologize, but with my heart and my soul, I remain with you. And all the information we'll be discussing, I will get it by all means. And I will make all draw the necessary lessons.
Дійсно, ми знаємо.
Thank you very much, Vitaly. We do know that Kiev is introducing innovative practices of open government. We know that Association of Ukrainian Cities is kind of, accumulating these practices and disseminating them. So our task is to make sure that they are further disseminated so that open local government is becoming ubiquitous. Let me give the floor to Alexander Yarema, State Secretary of the Cabinet of Ministers of Ukraine. Over to you. Good afternoon, dear participants of online marathon Good Practices of Open Local Government. We did speak today that during the week in May, the Open Government Week is launched in European countries, and I am happy that Ukraine is a partner of this initiative. We do have a lot of success to share, and we are happy to pick up the experience of other countries to disseminate it further. As of today, we've announced and had around 50 public events within the week of open government with the engagement of national, regional and local authorities, state administrations and NGOs. It is very important for us that we are discussing a variety of issues, whatever we can talk about, interaction, cooperation, decision-making, public engagement, combating corruption, access to information, use of innovative technologies. And this is a very good model for communication and interaction between local governments and other authorities. Let me thank the Congress of Regional and Local Authorities and the Association of Ukrainian Cities for launching the online marathon on good practices of open local government. And starting last year, local authorities have been actively engaged in this initiative, in this marathon, and hopefully in the future we'll see more and more local authorities joining in. A few words as to the accomplishments within the Open Government Initiative. The first thing here is the open public procurement system, e-services, participatory budget, new tools in terms of access to beneficial ownership, new tools to access information, and the new platforms of interactions where we can actively engage in communication within basically no time between civil society, local authorities, and public authorities. For us, it is very important that citizens and our counterparts from local authorities have a chance to learn more about best practices. And that's very important, therefore, to have representatives from various local authorities from all over Ukraine to participate in this event today to learn more about good practices to implement them in their respective regions. It is extremely valuable for us, and let me thank the Congress of local and regional authorities and Association of Ukrainian cities for this initiative, because that's an excellent opportunity to disseminate best practice. And it's very important to have your support when it comes to competitive selection when it comes to the OGP local strategy. Uh, we do hope that Ukrainian participation there will further improve our access and our bilateral cooperation and communication. We are open for any activities. We are ready to participate in developing, drafting any decisions that are made in this regard. Dear colleagues, thank you very much indeed again. Let me wish our marathon and all of us fruitful discussions and positive accomplishments. Thank you, Alexander. Let's launch our marathon. I am giving the floor to Ina Sklar, an expert on legal issues, member of the Coordination Council on introducing international initiative open government partnership. Over to you. Thank you, Svetlana. Thank you for your moderation and inspirational words. I think we are all ready to launch this marathon. Let me warn all of you that at the end of this marathon, we'll have a really short survey with respect of the practices that you are going to have presentations about today. So stay focused, stay actively engaged in the event. Those who are watching us on the YouTube, you can post your comments, and speakers can provide their comments using the chat. We would encourage you to raise questions with respect to practices that are going to be presented today. Unfortunately, it's very difficult to plan virtually single scene in the course of this marathon. So that's a very intense event. So please stick to the time frame. Unfortunately, we have some changes on the agenda, so be prepared for that. I hope that your smile on your faces will stay on. Let's have fun and enjoy it. So, we start with a very important subject matter, that's transparency and openness in communication of local and regional authorities and community. Well, there is a strategic vision that every territorial community should be well aware as to what is done by the elected officials. Each member of the community should quickly interact with local self-governing authorities by using innovative methods, using internet, or communicating with them directly. So what are the methods ways and tools employed by our communities? That's exactly what we are going to learn about. And the first to participate in the marathon is representatives of Rivne Oblast Council. Over to you. Thank you, Ina. My name is Sergei Kondrachuk. I am head of Rivne Regional Council. Thank you for an opportunity to participate in this event and share our experience, our best practice. Thank you for being on the marathon. As you know, the the high level of transparency and openness of the authorities boosts the trust to the authorities. And that's especially important given the ongoing conflict in our country. In democratic countries, um, this principle allows to consider the opinion of the voters and use the capacity of the collective mind. Therefore, one of the priorities of Rivne Oblast Council is to provide high level of openness and transparency of the council. Rivne Oblast Council provides for making public the decisions and discussions of the decisions that are pending under the law to access to public information. All plenary sessions, permanent commissions, competitive commissions for the positions at the council are broadcast online at the official website and at our YouTube channel. The executive council developed the interactive map of different services, institutions that are subordinate to us, and there are around 100 of them. Executive operators, executive council, developed the online account of a counselor, and there you can have access about the functions, powers, activities, or the work of the counselor, and each citizen has a chance to go directly to the council using this account, following signing in. Oblast Council is closely cooperating with the NGOs, and we have the NGO center called Civitas, and back in 2017 they submitted their suggestions to amend the rules of procedure, and we did that, and there was a decision of the council to publicize the information as to the activity of the enterprises in communal ownership following their recommendations. And on our website, we also have the financial statements of the enterprises in communal ownership. And actually, there is a special section where we have all statements that includes even bonuses paid. Whatever financial information is available is going to be made available there. Rivne Oblast Council repeatedly uh, was praised highly by civil society organizations in terms of its transparency in 2016. Uh, Based on the assessment of the websites of the oblast and town councils, we are ranked first in terms of transparency and openness. It was 60% ranking. Uh, Within the coalition transparent councils in 2017, even Oblast Council was ranked as the most transparent. In 2020, 2019, as part of the monitoring of transparency of the regions of Ukraine conducted by the International Center of Prospective Research within the framework of the project Transparency and Capacity of Local Self-Government, Rivne Oblast Council ranked first. And let me stress, it was 2 years in a row when we ranked the best. In the course of the monitoring, apart from analysis of the website, we also have questionnaires in social media that are actively used. Uh, we take all this as an incentive to further improve the work of the council, to improve access to information in our oblast. And to do that, at the meeting of the Coordinating Consultative Council on Local Self-Government, um, with the participation of the commissioner, we developed the ways to improve access to information. One of the steps in this regard at the next session, which is to be launched on May 21, we are going to discuss the draft resolution on the uh, budget procedures of Rivne Oblast Council. It's not something new. We just follow the example of the best councils, and as Vitaly Klitschko said, we borrowed this experience officials from our Volyn counterparts. We attended their session, and in the upcoming weeks, we are going to sign memorandum on cooperation with them because we believe that Volyn region is a step ahead of us, and we want to catch up with them. So enjoy the marathon. Thank you. Thank you, Sergey. Special thanks go to your team for being active, open. Thank you for staying open to new initiatives. Thank you for staying on the path of transparency and openness and disseminating this experience. Let's move further, and we are in Kiev Oblast again, and we have representatives of Berezan Town Council with us. Good afternoon, dear colleagues, Secretary of Berezan Town Council. Our community was shaped in 2018 when we were added 5 districts, and it was the sixth added a year later. So we have the town of Berezan and 10 settlements. Most of the people live in the town of Berezan. The total number of citizens is 23,000. Jointly with the Berezan City Council, we conducted the questionnaires to the urgent needs of the community. One of the pertinent issues there was environmental issue and safety. So therefore, we approved the program of a safe town. Starting 2018, we started actively implementing this program in the town of Berezan. So we have installed 108 CCTVs in various public places of the town of Berezan. That required a good internet connection. So we have a community provider, and at the moment, internet access is paid by the community. One of the elements of implementing this program is establishing the community guardship. So they are in charge of maintaining public order. And it's very important to have effective work of the guard, especially given the COVID-19 pandemic, to prevent infections and increase in the cases. We have several uh, persons in the guard. They have a car maintained by municipality. We and they are actively cooperating with the entrepreneurs of the town to ensure safety of our community. Schools, kindergartens, healthcare institutions are all provided with effective, speedy internet access. We are introducing e-document flow as part of the program. For this year, we are going to have 400,000 hryvnia earmarked. It was unanimously supported by all councils. We are going to set up the Uniform Safety Center. We submitted our business project to receive the grant to have it. So that's the plan for the safety or security center. That's internet, 24/7 surveillance, 24/7 hotline. It's like 9/11 in the US, interactive map of the issue so that anybody could access it and show whatever issues crop up, let's say with water supply, sewage, etc. So that's going to have environmental element to show the air pollution. Then we are going to have the weather map, the municipal guard, e-services, e-document flow. That's very useful, especially given the pandemic and burglar alarms protection, so that security system to protect the households. We are also having a web page and the internet center where the footage from CCTV cameras are coming for, and we therefore can control the security and safety in our city. That's briefly. Thank you, Oleg, for your excellent experience. Well, you know what? Your center is as excellent as the one that we have in the capital. You advertised your community by this presentation. So let's keep exchanging our best practices. Let's travel further to Mykolaiv region, and we have representatives of Voznesensk, Mykolaiv region with us. Good afternoon. Can you hear me? Today, we'll share experience of transparency and openness of a government and its interaction with the communities. To ensure that local authorities started actively cooperating with the USAID. Thanks to this cooperation, we were involved in information awareness campaign on participatory budget. So we published the brochures. It's black and white. That was the first year we started publishing it. Next year it was colored. So that was very important to figure out the opinion of the people as to the transparency of local government. This brochure allows for us to stay accountable because they help to understand the budgetary process better.
People should understand that the budget is not a kind of a bag in the mayor's office. And that's why they have found this allegory, a cow. And they say here, who would tell me why the budget looks like a cow? So this cow is the allegory of the budget. How does that illustration look like for people in terms of inclusiveness? Why did we choose that? Because we decided to tell you about complicated things with a single language so that the budget would no longer be something incomprehensible for the community members. Transparency. Here we have information on the main sources of income, the priority funding areas for the community, including for the costs for schools, hospitals, salaries for the staff. And here in this presentation, you see how we illustrated in a simple way the community's own income, revenues, and then how those revenues are spent. Here you would see it later in the presentation. Now, how has it all worked in 2020 with the start of the pandemic? Those public hearings and meetings became impossible, so we could discuss the budget because of the pandemic restrictions. That's why this dry information on our website for the community was not very attractive because it was often not too clear, too bureaucratic. One would have to download a package of documents, another package of those programs and plans, things like that. So when we made this clear infographics, people started discussing it in the social media, commenting it in the official pages of the local government. So that's the instrument for including our community, engaging them. And the last slide here is that we have participated in the competition and we won the competition, the Crystal Award of 2019, called the Best Budget for the People, Voznesenska Community, Mykolaiv region. Thank you all very much for giving me a chance to talk to you. Thank you, Olena, for this creative approach. That really means that you're engaging everybody and in a simple way with very good visualization. So thank you personally and all your team for the work you're doing and that you are sharing your achievements. We keep going ahead. We now find ourselves in the city of Kryvyi Rih, and we will ask you to share your practices with us. Good afternoon, colleagues. In fact, this presentation of Voznesensk was very creative, it's true. And we have some similar components. So I will also talk about the participative budget. We have talked about promotion, and I will tell you about our best practices, the process of transformation of our city budget as a dialogue between the authorities and the local community. And at the beginning, I'd like to set the tone about our project. I would like to start by with some very fine words that Machiavelli once said. Any change leads the way for other changes. So we've started introducing the participatory budgeting practices starting with 2016. And in fact, for us and for the community, there was a transparent mechanism for cooperation between the government and the community. And since that time, the participatory budgeting has become one of the instruments of direct democracy for Kryvyi Rih residents. At the same time, the transformation of the participatory budget throughout those 6 years, we never had a single year where we would not amend our regulations. And those amendments, in fact, met the needs and the requirements of the community, because during every voting procedure, every process of submitting bids, during the voting, we would receive very good feedback, including in the form of criticism from the authors of the project and their support teams, where they said that certain things have to be changed. Certain things are unfair because some kind of projects would win and others would not. And in fact, our transformation took place within the context of this dialogue between the government and the community as primarily partnership and good results. So confidence, the trust to our competition is primarily trust to our community. Let me tell you a little bit about those key stages of our transformation. In 2018, we joined for 2 years. So the project of 2016 and 2017, we all of our projects and all the voting procedures took place at our website, where we had ID banking, but we did not yet have a platform that the one that we have today. And it's not the platform we have only in Kryvyi Rih, but in many other Ukrainian cities. These are the results of a USAID and Social Boost project that, on the one hand, unifies us all. On the other hand, it is adapted to the needs of every city. Now, earlier, during the first 2 years, we just had one could vote for two projects. Now in 2018, we had the competition fund was broken down into three categories between the large, medium, and small projects, so that there would be competition between the large projects with similar ones. And as a result of getting feedback last year, no, from the previous years, the city of Kryvyi Rih is the city with 610,000 residents today. We have about 320 different educational establishments, kindergarten, schools, about 100 different other institutions. So we saw this trend, a negative trend, whereby some projects where, for example, one municipal institution would submit several projects. So we made it a condition that one institution could implement only one project each. Then again, we saw another trend. Yes, some projects won the competition, but there was a chain, a whole number of projects that were all related to only to such things as, for example, replacing windows at a sports club or a culture club, for example. We thought that that was quite negative. Yes, we do understand that Kriveri is a large city, let me tell you this again, and replacing all the windows, although the budget is relatively large, but replacing all the windows in immediately at all the facilities and clubs would be impossible. That's why some projects started submitting their projects where they suggested just to have their windows replaced on the first floor, the ground floor. And that negative trend could be seen in the social media, uh, and it has led to a situation where we introduced more restrictions. We discussed it for a long time, why we would have to leave 20% of the cost of the value of the windows and doors. Well, I can justify our position because there are some projects, like for example, setting up a kind of a class of robotics, for example. But it cannot be like that, that we will create a classroom for robotics, but this building would not be refurbished, for example. That's why we decided that only 20%, of the cost of any budget could go into such components. So in fact, we increased the competition fund up to 20.5 million hryvnias, and we continued working. Again, we received more feedback where we could see that although we had those window restrictions and restricting one project to just one facility, but educationalists were beyond any restrictions because the parents were very active and the authors of their projects were very active in promoting their projects. So about 70% of all the budget of the competition went to the educational facilities. And again, there was a wave of criticism coming from the authors of other projects whose projects could be interesting and creative, but they had too small communities. That's why they could not win those competitions. When, for example, authors submit their projects who come for the first time to a competition, they would ask us, how much is needed? How many votes do we need in order to win? We would then explain to them, everything depends on what competition you will have in your category. For example, throughout all these years, we had 9.5 thousand persons who voted for one of the projects. And the lowest number in that period of time for the first 5 2 years, there were about 100 votes that with which one could also win the competition. So having this feedback, we introduced a category. We in fact broke down the competition into educational projects where all educational institutions would compete between themselves. And those educational competitions would also be broken down into two groups: schools, because schools are kind of a separate category, and kindergartens and other educational institutions besides schools. And we also have quite a lot of them, but it's hard for them to compete with the schools. So this is how we organize ourselves. Youth projects. Again, young people, they do not yet know how to communicate well, how to justify their needs, and how to explain that their projects were the most important ones. So we, in fact, separated them into a separate special category so that schools would remain where schools should be. We did it in such a way that they would not only deal with some activities without, for example, purchasing, some equipment, and municipal, small and municipal large projects, the ones that were not part of educational projects or youth projects. Here, in order to stimulate young people, we suggested co-financing. For the young people, we said that the youth projects would not have zero co-funding, but with the other groups of projects, those co-financing went down from 10 to 5%. At that time, for that year, we had 26 million hryvnias, the competition fund, and then we had 50 projects that won the competition. Again, as we saw the dynamics of the competition, how municipal projects competed between themselves, we saw that there was a whole group of socially vulnerable projects, let's say on the one hand. On the other hand, these were socially important projects. So in 2021, the projects of 2021, the ones that are implemented today, we've announced that that was the year of social initiatives. We introduced a group of social projects, and the conditions for making to verify such projects, we've decided that a certain category of people could submit their bids for social projects, usually people with disabilities or children or war combatants, and their projects would go into supporting socially vulnerable groups. We received some very interesting projects and important projects on the one hand, including the ones related to inclusiveness. And again, those projects, educationalists were not allowed to submit those projects because if they had participated in them, they would have won it all. And again, this year, the co-financing went down for the educational projects. And this is the dynamics, the growth that we have seen. The competition funds, the number of winning projects, you see how the competition fund has grown twice. The number of projects, well, it's relatively small that has grown this number, but because on the one hand, the upper level for the upper threshold for the project has not changed very much. On the other hand, what has changed, we now have more projects, close to the upper threshold. Oksana, well, I'm about to finish now. And again, now we're planning our next competition. We're gathering new ways, new practices with account of the opinions of our residents. And most importantly, we believe that we should include into our projects only those things that are related to the development of our city. Thank you very much. We would be ready to share our practices with anyone. Please load our webpage, Kryvyi Rih Public Budget. Let's be friends. Thank you very much, Oksana. Kryvyi Rih is wonderful as always, and we have received most requested bids from you, so you're so active. Thank you very much. Colleagues, we're now moving toward our next session. Oksana has slightly touched upon it. This is inclusiveness in the process of digital transformation. And I'm giving the floor now to Oksana Derkach, who is going to help me moderate this session. She's a councilor of Poltava City Council. Oksana, please. Good afternoon. This subject is so important, inclusiveness within the digital transformation process, because everyone should have equal opportunities in using sophisticated modern technologies. And of course, we're not idle here. We have some interesting developments. The industry of the Ministry for Digital Transformation aims not only at developing online services, but also promoting equal access to those services for all Ukrainians. And therefore, the Council for Digital Accessibility for People with Disabilities has been set up. One of the areas for that council is to adapt the current website for the needs of the people with disabilities. And of course, I'd like to say a couple of words about what we have developed in Poltava. Just a couple of sentences. We in Poltava have a service GPS monitoring of the urban transport. And this service has been adapted to the needs of the people with eyesight problems. An app has been developed called Poltava GPS Inclusive. It works, and people with eyesight problems can in fact monitor the transport flows. And by using this app, they know how many minutes they have to wait, what kind of bus or trolley bus would come to a certain stop. Moreover, they can decide which stop, how much time they need to walk to the nearest station or stop, whether they have to cross the road. I believe that this subject is very important. And as I give you our example from Poltava, I think it would be interesting for you to learn about other developments in other places of Ukraine. And as Ina has told us we should start traveling, let me continue that. I suggest that now representatives of Liman community should join us, and we're moving to Donetsk region.
Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Marina Raiko. I am honored to tell you about Liman community with respect to inclusiveness and digital transformations. The centers of administrative services, that's an element of the reform that everybody feels because that is to meet the needs of every person. Centers they are the element that have to provide for transparency, openness, and clarity of the actions of the authorities when it comes to administrative services, and to do that in compliance with these standards and simplify the access. The most remote settlements, and that's 40 kilometers in our case, and we have 40 settlements like that, and Liman is divided in two parts by the railway. So services should be provided equally, and the quality should be ensured. Thanks to the UN program, strengthening confidence, as well as the USAID project, the GIZ project that is implemented in the east of Ukraine, we are using innovative technologies and modern equipment that allows to provide the services to the most remote places of our community with the high quality of the services. The first thing that we have is the mobile case of the administrator. Mobile case is basically a proper desk that the person has in the very center to provide any services except those that require special equipment. So the services, therefore, are provided at the place of registration of the applicant. That's mainly meant for people with disabilities, elderly people, and people with temporary mobility issues. We also have e-baby services that are provided at the hospitals to the mothers of newly borns. So people can get the services at the place where they are. The next scene is mobile centers of administrative services. They provide the full list of the services that are provided in the physical center. That allows to engage the experts that are needed. As I said, our city is divided into two parts by the railway. Therefore, the access to some of the services are sometimes difficult. So we need special transportation to cover all groups of people that need administrative or social services to have equal access to them. Mobile center has two um, two vacancies for two officials, so the quality is ensured. Given the pandemic, the mobile case and mobile center um, are very effective tools for those groups that require these services at their homes. Uh, and we can categorize people, so we don't see the lines in the center, in the very center. Rather, the services are provided to people where they live. This is possible only thanks to modern technologies. In the Center of Administrative Services, we um, use the comprehensive system, Renome Smart, to administer e-register of the community and e-document flow. We can share the documents using DEAR application, so we can share the documents in the electronic form, and that minimizes the errors and expedites the process. We also provide the e-Malatko, e-baby services at the hospitals. So we seem to have a lot, but we do have a lot of plans, and the plans are really ambitious. For instance, we want to further expand the services that are provided by the Centers of Administrative Services, for the introduction of e-services, having DIA accessible by everybody, and accomplish 100% coverage of our communities, because centers that should be the focal point for the services for all citizens. Thank you. It was very interesting, especially as to mobile centers. I think it was a very useful experience for anybody in our country. Thank you very much indeed. We keep traveling along the south, and we have representatives of Melitopol. Over to you. Mariupol. Sorry, Mariupol. Yeah, well, we want to go on vacations and we need to go to the south. Yeah, and we are looking forward to travels. Good afternoon, dear participants of online marathon. Milutina Daria. Let me share the experience of Mariupol Council when it comes to transparency and openness of the community. We picked up several areas to improve our openness, transparency. That's healthcare, administrative services, tourism, reconstruction of historical sites, IT hubs, communal services, the update, public transport, and improving conditions for IDPs. Next slide, please. Starting 2016, local authorities started working on improving transparency in all sectors. One of the elements here is digitalization of all services. We updated the website of our council. We introduced petitions, a uniform information system of the city, contact center, automated the system of grants and subsidies. The Prozoro system allowed to say 1 billion of funds. The services allowed for the community to have access to information and services during the quarantine. Through Prozoro and e-democracy tools, we engage our people in the processes to develop our community, to implement different events to expand transparency and openness. We accomplished a lot, especially in education, investments, economic development, housing, land use, and openness of data. In 2018, Mariupol ranked from 25th place to leading positions according to Transparency International. It became one of the most transparent cities in 2018. Transparency ranking, that's the indicator that international investments take into consideration when considering investments, and leadership positions for Mariupol, as well as strategy, very good public funds management, are important elements to attract international partners to invest into the town. That's our results when it comes to leadership, according to Transparency International. And the next slides shows the priority projects for investments. At the moment, we've been cooperating with the European Investment Bank, International Financial Corporation, European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, French government, and we've attracted investments worth 160 million hryvnia that allowed to launch new projects in water supply, to develop modern public transport infrastructure, waste management, and street lights. Next slide. Openness and transparency is the basis to change the town. And our position in the ranking of Transparency International shows the efforts we invested in that, and we are keen on developing our town further. Thank you. Thank you for your wonderful experience. Let me thank Oksana for moderation. Mariupol is represented basically in virtually all contests and competitions that association is launching. You are very active. Thank you for that. Dear colleagues, a request to you, could you please stick to 5-minute limit? I do understand that you all have wonderful ideas and accomplishments, but that's important for you to stick to 5 minutes. We're moving further, and we are talking about engagement of youth and underrepresented groups. And we have a deputy mayor of Berdichev, Olena Petrivska, who is going to moderate this session. Good afternoon. I am very happy that our city can share our experience in our work. We introduce open government principles to ensure transparency and openness in decision-making process by local authorities, as well as providing these services. We implemented a lot of different events. We developed the program of social and economic development to create the positive image of the city. We developed the brand of the town. Participatory budget is a very popular project, and we see more and more people that are engaged in that. We have accomplished a lot when it comes to transparency of local authorities. We have online sessions conducted by the town. We improved access to information. We have the minutes of the sessions available on the website. We are guided by the law on access to public information. This allows to improve this access. We make public the agenda as well as the minutes of the meetings of the executive committees. We make sure that the civil society participates in the sessions. We improve administrative services. We expanded the set of services that are provided by the administrative service centers. Some of them are provided online. We renovated the premises of the center. We are proud that we engage youth and underrepresented groups representatives in the decision-making process. And this allows for us to implement better local initiatives. We recently set up a medical council, sports council, the council of churches in our town, and when it comes to underrepresented groups, to increase and expand the services provided to them, we improved the center for children with disabilities and daycare center. It was initiated by the Association of People with Disabilities. Then social services were merged with the territorial center that provides social services. This enables for closer cooperation with the underrepresented groups, representatives with pensioners and IDPs and various NGOs to improve the services for the groups. Starting 2016, on the basis of the library, we've launched the Youth Center Information, Youth Council, and the initiative group implemented a lot of social and cultural projects, and they cooperate with the employment office to create jobs for youth. We have the School of Volunteers, and the leadership of the center works to stay inclusive, engages the war veterans. We work a lot with the IDPs, and youth has set up the club for elderly people. We are closely cooperating with this group of people too. So we believe that Berdichev community is really active in cooperating with various groups, and our webpage reflects that. We use social media to update about our work. We announce the upcoming events, whether it's cultural, uh, political events, and people are actively participating in them. The mayor of Berdichev has 2 pages on FB, and he has around 10,000 people as friends there. So we are open for cooperation, and we wish everybody the best. And before I give the floor to my colleagues to Kharkiv, let me welcome everybody who works in healthcare. It's the day of family doctor. Let all the doctors stay healthy, and then we'll stay healthy and safe too. Let me give the floor to Kharkiv, therefore.
Доброго дня, дякуємо вам.
Good afternoon. Thank you. Let me thank organizers of this marathon. Thank you for the opportunity to be with you. Thank you for the opportunity to share our experience. Could you show our presentation? So that's our practice that proved to be effective in our city. Let me tell you about school self-governance and how we engaged children in decision-making process. In this slide, you see that the self-governing student organization is part of the comprehensive program of the development of the city of Kharkiv for the period until 2025. We have the program of educational work for the children that provides for updating them with legislation, historic and cultural elements. In the next slide, you see that City Council is playing a crucial role in engaging students in decision-making process, engaging them in all democratic processes that we see developing. The Council of Student Self-Governance is composed of 188 schools, that's all schools, 9 centers, the Council of Leaders performs coordinatory function. We also have the Council of Mentors and Consultants here. Here we have strategic elements for the development of the organization that provide for the work of 9 centers. That's planning development. We have the Center on Planning and Development. They develop the strategy for the organization development. They keep an eye on the performance of the action plan. The democratic culture is the responsibility of 3 centers. When it comes to strategy or strategic development, we have Media Center who is in charge of that. The Center of Youth Initiatives is the one in charge of implementing various youth projects. We also have the club on international partnership. We also have 15 schools that are focused on the activity of high school students. We make sure that the accomplishments are publicized. We monitor the scope of development of student self-government in compliance with the respective criteria, and therefore we identify the best organizations among the students whose experience is further disseminated. In the next slide, you see that we have this school of development, and that's the activity of the school. They cooperate with the set of educational institutions. They have action plans that are approved by the councils. That's done jointly with the representative of the center. The project activity, entrepreneurship, media education, journalism, marketing, communication, etc. That's areas of their work.
This slide, you see that project activities of the school students is very popular, and here in cooperation with the NGOs, a number of volunteer and peacekeeping programs and projects, your integration projects are implemented. We have a city bank, electronic city bank of students projects with about 700 initiatives where one can see them and read them, any community member, and propose one support for the implementation. The city level competitions are conducted. If I were the mayor or the marathon of unique things, I am the ombudsman, etc. In the next slide, we see that today in the work of the student self-government, they are working on the new leadership models. One of such examples is the work of the City Club of Young Peacekeepers. 156 schools have joined the project, this Young Peacekeeper School. The city has set up the only museum for the movement of Kharkiv peacekeepers, youth peacekeepers, the only one in Ukraine, and their work has been highly appreciated at all the levels, including by the World Peacekeeper Association of the UN and the World Federation of Veterans. You see how our children and school students participate in international conferences. Since 2010, the city has had the Association of School Euro Clubs with 106 active Euro clubs. You can see their events here, their activities. They have an annual forum. They participate in international projects and programs. This year, for example, we have supported their projects to create interactive parliamentary knots where they engage young school students of primary schools to participation in decision making at the local community level. And on this slide, you can see that in the work of various organizations, an important role is played by the activities for patriotic upbringing. that take place within the memoranda that have been signed with the representatives of the NGOs, of the veterans and the military stations. You see some projects that have been implemented jointly, and some of them that have already been checked and have become very popular among the school students. Act in advance of time. That's what we think about how the organization should work in the future. We see that with our work, we want to enhance local self-government with our specific achievements. The leaders of the organizations are active residents of Kharkiv, and as they cooperate with the grown-ups, with members of Kharkiv City Council, they learn how to develop important decisions for the development of their communities and schools. And as regards the experience of their work, we have repeatedly presented it at the Security Forum 2021, at the competition for the local self-government best practices in 2019 and 2020, and also during the international conferences in France, and Czech Republic, and Slovakia, and Poland, and even at the in Switzerland, the European headquarters. You see our children there. And this last slide shows you our different areas of cooperation. Cooperation with the city community, it's multifaceted, multicolored. And during this pandemic time, I can tell you that the organizations have not only not stopped their work, but have proved that they're very effective. But this, because this online format is very close to modern school students, and in fact, their activity has grown twice, at least, as they participated in all the activities. And of course, we have managed to present online during the work of the Kharkiv City Council. We have managed to present to them some of our initiatives, and we're waiting for them to support us. Thank you very much. Thank you. And now we are going to the city of Lutsk in Volyn region. We're giving the floor to the city of Lutsk. Good afternoon, everybody. It's an honor for me to present to you the work of our social service for young people, families, and children department within the format of creating such relations of partnership with the civil society institutions. I'd like to use this opportunity to give you our best regards from the Lutsk mayor, Ihor Polishchuk, because he is the one who inspires us and supports us implement many of our plans, youth plans and social plans, very ambitious plans. And in fact, here, thanks to him, we get funding support for it as well. Today, I'd like to suggest to you that I can tell you about how we conduct our social project competition developed by the civil society institutions. Now, this competition takes place within the city program, the program to support and develop NGOs of working in the social areas. This year, we have adopted it for 2015 or until 2025, I guess. We've had these projects for 4 years now, and the stability allows us to really develop, because we started with a statutory fund of 80,000 for this competition. And in fact, the NGOs could win, some 20,000 for their statutory development, implementing some ideas. While this year, this sustainability has been confirmed by the fact that this year we have already received 250,000 hryvnias, and every project could win already 50,000. It's not much money, but it's very important for every NGO that is only starting its work or is developing and starting to implement certain initiatives. You can see here in the previous slide, you could see how those competitions took place. transparency, because we announce those calls for proposals. These competitions are accessible. Most important, we have an application system that is quite simple so that they could all try their hands in submitting their proposals. And it's a kind of a trampoline, a platform to implement all kinds of plans and projects, all kinds of projects. And that's also the beginning for their grant stories, grant history. And according to the decisions of the executive committee, we would adopt this competition of social project with such areas as implementation of innovative social technologies for rehabilitation and adaptation of people with disabilities, overcoming social stereotypes about people with disabilities, development of tolerance, social and psychological support to the vulnerable groups of population in the territorial community who find themselves in dire living situation, preventing domestic violence, providing support to the victims, working with the perpetrators, countering human trafficking, providing support to the victims of human trafficking, prevention of negative phenomena such as implementation of social innovative technologies for rehabilitation and the innovation of people who have been released from prisons, and also providing equal rights and opportunities for men and women in the territorial community, increasing the image of the families, of forming positive behavioral patterns, and providing social services in the communities. These are the areas in which we work, and every NGO would choose one's area, one's subject, and would submit it to their social project competition. The winners are selected by the selection committee that consists 50-50 from the representatives of the government and the civil society. We have here Lutsk city councilors and civic activists, members of the executive committee, as well as employees of our units that implement either family policies or youth or social policies. The participants would then present their projects. They present them, publicly. They try to convince the committee, and according to the protocol of the meetings that are published at our website, and then the competition committee, when it makes its decision about supporting a certain project, then we would also have it submitted by the executive committee of Lutsk City Council. Today we had a meeting of the executive committee of Lutsk City Council. This year, again, we have 5 winners that will have quite good funds provided by Lutsk City Council to implement their projects. Here you can see how some projects have already been implemented. We also are applying transparency to the project implementation so that the media can have access to it, and any kind of a civic activist who want to have a look at how a project has been implemented, and that's how it takes place. My last slide is what we want to say by that. We want to say that it's important to give not a fish, but a fishing rod so one can catch one's fish. That's why our NGOs have a chance to try themselves in all kinds of projects that can be implemented by Lutsk City Council. And I'm very happy, thank you very much. I'm very happy now to give the floor to Novohrad-Volynski of Zhytomyr region, where Lesa Ukrainka was born, 150th anniversary of whose birth we celebrated this year. But please use the 5 minutes that you're entitled to. Novohrad-Volynski, good afternoon, can you hear us? Yes, we can. Thank you very much. to our friends from Berdiche for introducing Novohrad-Volhynsky City Council. It's true that this year we're celebrating a very important anniversary, probably of the most well-known poet, female poet in Ukraine, Lesya Ukrainka, who was born in our city. And of course, we want to invite all the colleagues present here, and not only the ones who are with us now, to visit, to find some time this year to visit our very hospitable city, to meet our wonderful residents, and of course, the creative objects that are related to Lesya Ukrainka. First of all, I want to thank our organizers of this marathon, the Association of the Ukrainian Cities and the Council of Europe office for this very interesting event that allows all of us to move from our own towns and cities to other regions of Ukraine to see what our colleagues are working on, to share our experience, to learn some new things, some new practices that we can eventually implement in our work so that our communities could develop quicker and with better quality. Next, my colleague, Volodymyr Vybilda, will speak, who will tell you about how we support young people in our community. When we speak about the youth, we understand that that's our future. The city council understands that, and at every stage we engage young people in decision making, primarily managerial decision making. Last week, we signed a memorandum of cooperation between the Council of Europe office in Ukraine and Novohrad-Volhynsky City Council that is to develop cooperation, primarily for developing such important documents for the City Council as our charter, the statute. And of course, we now have young people in our working group because everything we do to develop our community so the young people could stay here and influence decision making in a democratic way. So once again, I'd like to thank the Council of Europe office, the Association of Ukrainian Cities that are helping us introduce the best practices, not only on the national level but the world practices as well, so we can really be moving toward Europe, not only verbally, but with our actions. So that's the end of my introduction, and I'm giving the floor over to my colleague, Volodymyr Liberda, the chairman of the Youth Center, who can tell you about the main activities that we do for the young people and together with the young people. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm happy to be present at this event. It's really very interesting to learn, and I like to share our achievements with you, the one that we already have in our city. First of all, I want to stress that implementation of our activities and youth policies in Novohrad-Volhynsky is aimed primarily at meeting the needs of the young people. To do that, we have a youth council in the city. The youth council organizes the young people's free time activities, educational process. We have a number of intellectual activities, educational activities. Well, of course, amid the quarantine, we, just like most other regions of Ukraine, we have tried to get adapted to it. We have moved online, and I think that we implement our initiatives quite successfully online. So, in fact, to engage young people in the city's life, we believe that first and foremost, we need to entertain them, sort of intellectual entertainment that should take place. For example, in our city, we have the Holiday of Colors, was a regular festival that's primarily targeting the young population to make them interested. We have a tradition to have the local educational project called Motivation. Last year, about 50 representatives of the youth from all over the region joined the project. Speakers from the Ukrainian Leadership Academy spoke to them. Different international speakers, young people asked them interesting questions, and that's how they developed. An important element of our cooperation with the young people is the national and patriotic upbringing, as Novohrad-Volhynsky is a military town because in the territory of our city, we have 4 military brigades. And with the start of the Russian aggression in the east of the country, our city has suffered much and our military units were at the very front line since the very beginning of the war. Now we have all kinds of military and patriotic activities. We gather young people of about 18 years old. We give them 2-day trainings with participation of the soldiers and officers where young people can learn about different types of weapons and how to use them. And they also get proper skills in survival. In our studies, we concluded that many young people of today would often face such a problem, the problem of survival. Many of them would even not know how to set fire, how to start a fire. So with our trainings, we teach all these things to our young people and they like it very much. This has become a traditional activity for us now. Again, we're getting back to entertainment here. We conduct regular movie shows in the open. We set a large screen at the very center of the city. As you see from these pictures, we have quite picturesque landscapes close to our ancient fortress. And we have movie shows there so that young people, when they have some free time, could come there and spend their night in an interesting way. To get back to our educational work, in our education, among our educational activities, we have a special lessons of courage, where we regularly conduct such activities where we invite our local war veterans, combatants, where we invite different groups of the population, the IDPs, the former combatants, so that the young people could talk to them and feel that the history is being made now, here and now. They can hear about it firsthand from the participants of those events directly and ask them questions about anything that interests them.
And we also organize, and recently we had it too. That's the quest for young people. That's both educational and entertaining because through the quest, young people learn a lot about um, historic sites, learns a lot new about the place where they live, and that's important for their self-development. In the course of the quest, young people will meet their counterparts, their peers, and that's very important too. They meet new friends. Thank you for attention. It was nice to be with you, and it was nice to be boasting about our accomplishments. Thank you. The floor is given to your neighbors. That's a neighboring region, the Mediv community. Good afternoon. Can you hear me well? Yeah, okay. I'm really happy to be among these active communities, representatives of the most active communities of Ukraine. Thank you for the invitation. Let me thank the Council of Europe and Association of Ukrainian Cities for the opportunity to participate in the event. I represent the Mediv a territorial community, Rivne Oblast. We are not a big community like the ones that spoke before. We have much less resources to implement those ambitious ideas that we have, but we don't mind, we don't give up, and we do our best to make sure that we catch up with the large communities, our neighbors, and we want to meet the challenges of the time and adequately respond to the needs and challenges that we face. We are guided by the needs of our people, of our young people as well. And let me talk today about the ways we engage young people in the life and work of the Medivh community. Our community is not really big, so we have 12,000 people living here, mm, and that's 23 various settlements, and we have only one large village here. So the community was set up in 2017. In 2020, we completed the decentralization process, and we are working in a, so to say, permanent status. To hear youth and to understand their needs and to respond to their needs adequately. That was the task that we faced back in 2018, immediately after the community was set up. And at the session of the council, we decided to set up the youth council. And we launched, therefore, the process of training young people to be able to actively engage in the work of this council. It was a very complex process. We've never had any experience like that. And it was very difficult for us to master all the skills necessary. Therefore, we appreciate donors' support in this regard at the level of oblast, at the level of the state. The, they did support the micro initiatives, micro projects that we implemented, and that was the way that allowed us through small steps, small initiatives, implement a lot. So we have a youth center that we called Open Space. That was the center that was set up as a result of the open competition through the contest that is implemented by the Ministry of Youth and Sports jointly with the NGO promoting the life of the villages that is very active in this region, and with the Medieval Council. The project open space was kind of an outcome of the ideas that young people have. So see, that's the calendar countdown of the youth initiatives. In 2018, we set up the council, then we implemented the project of Center of Youth Entrepreneurship so that anybody who wishes could sign in for the training on entrepreneurship. So they could therefore learn more about setting up business, get a better understanding if that's the area they want to pursue. And the center was set up in the form of the mini bakery. And this center is very effective and is very well received by the youth. In 2019, we launched participatory budget in the community. We conducted really large work to um, prepare the basis for that so that everybody understands what participatory budget is. So that was a lot of work, but we managed that and selected a set of projects that are to be implemented next year. Due to pandemic, and decrease in funding, these projects are going to be implemented in 2021 instead of last year as it was initially planned. Youth project is an indispensable element that engages not only adult young people, so to say, but students as well. Very often in the villages, after finishing schools, young people just go to other places to study at the universities, and normally they never come back because they don't see their place here. So we wanted to create an environment, this setting that would encourage young people to come back so that they could see their roles and places in our community, so that they feel that they are needed here. And to do that, we implemented a set of different activities. For instance, the club of the table games, well, it's very popular, especially in summer. We played the game called The World of the Communities. I guess that's a very popular game to engage civil society, and other table games that are popular among young people. We have open air movie theater in the park, and that allowed uh, go to think differently about the functions the park might have, and kind of rethink the significance for this park. And next week we are going to resume the work of the open air theater. We conducted a lot of other trainings to um, tell young people more about various professions. To do that, we invited successful entrepreneurs who shared their experience. That was very important for young people to make an informed choice as to their future profession, so that they know better what is behind a particular profession, and how it can fit into the life of the community. We planned a lot more different events, but given quarantine restrictions, we couldn't conduct these events as we wanted, and we had to switch into a different format. We have a lot of plans for the future. A couple of weeks ago, for instance, we had a meeting of the Youth Council of the new convocation. We approved the new composition. We elected the leader, and we are going to review the youth program as well as the action plan. And we need to further expand and develop the infrastructure that would meet the needs of young people. We are also going to work on the human rights policy for young people. It's a popular element for large cities, but normally these initiatives are missing at the level of villages, and we want to be the first to have it in our oblast. We want to have financial incentives for young people. Maybe that's going to be done through participatory budget. I borrowed some ideas from Kryvyi Rih, the way they did that through their participatory budget. I think we'll pick up from them and transform our participatory budget so that our budget meets the needs of young people as well. Let me take this opportunity and thank the donors that supports our initiatives, Oblast administration that supports our projects as part of their contest, IREX Ukraine, Ukrainian Cultural Foundation, Resource Center, and other partners that support us in our endeavors. They support us through the grants and technical expertise. Networking, exchange of experiences of crucial importance. Let's sign in, let's become friends, let's exchange experience. We are open for cooperation. Thank you for your attention. Thank you, Serhiy. Thank you, Olena, for moderation, for your assistance. Thank you for excellent practices that you shared. Let's move on, and we are going to talk about citizens' engagement to promote cultural heritage and sports. And it's going to be co-moderated by Vadim Hayev, Mayor of Novopskov. Can you hear me? Yes. Good afternoon, dear participants of this event. Thank you very much for the invitation. A very impressive representative audience. A few words about our community. We are in the very um, east of Ukraine. We are the first amalgamated community in the country. Why is it so important to focus on these issues that we are going to hear about? A couple of years ago, we faced the issue of lack of trust of people to the authorities, whether that's local authorities, rayon or oblast level, and at the level of the state. There was no trust to anybody, neither to Verkhovna Rada or the president. So it was very difficult for us to establish proper communication. And I guess that could be typical for many communities. And I guess that we have best practices in this regard. And the first to speak is Rivne region, Varash. Do we have a representative? Yes, it's me. Serhiy Neha, Executive Committee of City Council. In the first slide, we had this event. That's a rainbow that you see in this slide. So let me talk today about one unusual project that is a combination of the artistic elements and acts as a bridge between people and authorities, just thanks to the way it was implemented. We called it one artist, 1 month, and the idea was to build up trust to authorities, executives, and we did that just through the exhibitions of local painters in the city council. Next slide. What we did is just we tried to make popular local artists, local painters, and we plan to have 12 exhibitions. In other words, every month we have a new exhibition of 1 or 2 painters. And the paintings are on display in the town's council. So 12 exhibitions to make popular our amateurs, and the exhibition of one painter lasts just for a month. Next slide. We had 12 presentations of artists, of painters, where they told about their art. So we invite around 20 people to the premises. The painter tells about about himself, herself, about artistic technique, about inspirations. Anything he or she believes to be important. It's broadcast online, and we also invite the audience of around 20 people. So that's kind of presentation that we have every month. We also organized 12 master classes where painters teach others, those who want to acquire some painting skills or improve the skills that they have. So these classes are going to be funded by the council. So the budget is 58,000, and we buy brushes, paint, the easels, anything that is needed for master classes, and they are conducted in the open air. Next slide. The project is guided by the principle of open government, namely inclusiveness. If you view inclusiveness as increase in engagement of citizen, then exhibition and presentation of an artist at the premises of local authorities contributes to building the trust to authorities and makes authorities closer to people and promotes effective dialogue between government and people. That provides for better high level of communication between them, and it serves as the basis for further increase of trust and more effective communication and dialogue. And therefore, that would be a very good basis for the other projects that would follow. If you talk about inclusiveness as a socialization of people with disabilities, then among the painters, we have people with disabilities too. There were three painters that participated in this project. Next slide. Just because COVID-19 pandemic, it was next to impossible to organize various cultural events, and it has a negative impact on the emotional and psychological state of people of the community. Especially, it has a negative impact on the persons of art. Artists feel it more than anybody. So thanks to this project, they had a chance to meet others and network. So uh, that allowed for them to step outside their private space and talk to others, join their efforts, etc. Our project, One Artist, 1 Month, allows for artists to display their works, and the visitors have a chance to see new paintings every month. And it really has a very positive effect on everybody in the community. And that's very important for us. Uh, because that makes the sentiments better, and it encourages people to work more effectively. As I said, presentations are organized online and offline for no more than 20 persons. And after the presentation, we also organize discussions, and the discussions are really very interesting too. And there we have uh, new ideas that crop up. These are the ideas for the new projects. We are going to work further to engage more people in various projects, and we are going to do that through online public consultations to collect new ideas, and that's an element of e-governance. And this year we are going to uh, organize participatory budget contest. Well, that's a small uh, project, doesn't require a lot of funding, but that's the project that allows to promote local artists and improve confidence to local authorities. Thank you. Novopskov engages local artists. As you see, I have some small exhibition in my office. We had a flash mob of artists, a very interesting experience. We have Nova Odessa community, to speak the next Mykolaiv region. Good afternoon. Let me introduce my community to you. Can you hear me? Yes, that's my presentation. You see how beautiful nature is. That's our business card. We are always happy to see gas. We are a very hospitable community, and in our community, we have our innovations too.
And these are stories that are related to how making our cultural heritage popular is called cultural innovations. And here you see some cultural experiments in our governance. We have developed for our virtual users quite a number of new online resources, online services. At our websites, we see a blog, we have some virtual book exhibitions, electronic delivery of documents about Nova Odessa people, electronic delivery of documents about the news from our land, and social media. We have video master classes to produce handmade handicraft and how we can survive through COVID, online tours around our land. Within this quarantine, we have started some new forums, such as new stained glass windows, online competitions, my family. You see one of them working right now here in this slide. As a result, our Nova Odessa Public Library, as a result of this online activities with virtual users, has received from the Institute of Ukrainian Books in 2021 about 1,000 copies of different books. It's one of the best libraries of our community. Besides, our culture club has introduced very many competitions, and as a result of these activities, we now win online competitions that we have in our region. These are competitions for theaters, the competitions of humor and satire and songs. So Nova Odessa culture has a huge potential based on the unique hereditary traditions that we continue. Now we have some youth initiatives. Well, I can tell you about youth initiatives. We don't have a slide for that. However, our young people very actively participate in online surveys about communication strategies. Therefore, we have quite a lot of online competitions. And we have one such regional competitions as regards so-called Jura patriotic game. We support inclusion. We have very many meetings with people with disabilities, online meetings and offline meetings and round tables. We have very many literary parties and sports events that we do inclusively and online. As a result, we have reached the project called Our Community with participation, engagement of the young people. Of course, we have quite a lot of communities in Mykolaiv, but our partnership of the Nova Odessa project, we would ask all the participants to support it. Please join our platform, our community, and support us. And sports innovations. We have some historically good traditions in this area. We have won very many online regional sports competitions started in 2021, like for the ones, for example, we care about sports where we won the competition. We start new online contests, for example, for laser tagging. And here you see online and offline meetings to develop the coaches. And recently we had a regional tournament for Michael Swartz, who has coached more than 60 great athletes. To commemorate his memory, we had a huge regional tournament. And with such a huge online wonderful stories, we of course found ourselves, and thank you for the organizers for having chosen us to participate in Tivik Tech a project implemented by the Association of Ukrainian Cities and the civil society with the help of the East Europe Foundation and with support of the European Union. If you have any questions, we would always be happy to answer them. You're always welcome to our land. You can show the last slide where you can see our telephone number. Thank you very much. I'm sure that we will have even better results in the future, but of course we would all like the pandemic to be over as quickly as possible, so we would all globally find a good solution. Although we have learned many things, but of course it's best not to have such a kind of experience. Thank you, Olena. You have been so active, so emotional. One can see that you really live with your work. Thank you very much for being so active. You really are a very cool community. I also want to thank Vadim Hayev. You know, he is a very humble mayor. He wouldn't tell us that tomorrow he's going to receive an award. Vadim, can you tell us what you have won? Well, we received this award in 2020 already. Tomorrow we will present perhaps to other communities our achievements, and I will report to them about our practice. And in fact, our practice is called creating conditions for bringing together the residents of amalgamated communities. We've been winning it for 2 years now. Well, that's quite a lot of time already. Well, we are working on it. Thank you, Vadim. Thank you very much. Thank you to all the participants. We are very much uh, late, but I'm sure that our practices are very interesting, but it will become even more difficult now because we're moving to a tool for stronger education, the open government. Here I'll be held by Hennady Dickey, mayor of Bila Tserkva. I see Mr. Dickey is here. Hennady, good afternoon, colleagues. Bila Tserkva territorial community welcomes you. It's a very good event. It's a cool event. I've been sitting here for a couple of hours now, writing down lots of things. Today, we would also like to talk about open government as a tool for stronger education. Today, because of the reform of education, we're facing quite a number of serious challenges. The communities as well, and that's why discussing such things with the community members, how to most effectively uh, develop our education so that it would be close to the people, accessible and with good quality. This is what we're going to be discussing now. And I'd like to give the floor to the city of Kryvyi Rih. Please, the floor is yours. While Kryvyi Rih is joining us, yes, we're already here with you. Thank you for the invitation, dear colleagues. Where Kryvyi Rih greets you. Allow me to say a couple of words about education in Kryvyi Rih. I am Tetiana Kripak, Director of the Department for Education and Science of Kryvyi Rih City Council. A bit of information for you. Our education is a very powerful network. We have 134 municipal institutions of general and secondary education, 43 educational facilities that are not schools. We have almost 70,000 students, more than 20,000 students of kindergartens. About 30,000 are the children who visit our out of curriculum, out of school classes, including sports clubs. I'd like to share with you the experience that we have received this year, a difficult year, because last year in March, for the first time, we all faced such a difficult problem as moving online to remote education. Yes, we had had quarantines and lockdowns before, but these were quite short for a week or two, and they would not have very serious consequences. But last March, we realized when the national lockdown was announced most educationalists stayed at home and they had to learn to develop their online skills, to work with online tools. We had to adapt to this online format of work very quickly to organize our educational process in such a way that our students would study non-stop and to get education of all types, preschool, primary school, secondary school level educations. So we decided not to wait for some kind of centralized decisions about remote education, like starting online schools or video classes. And in fact, we decided that in our city, we had to create an educational portal. You see it in this slide. We called it Educational Portal of Kryvyi City. That is called Let's Color Our World Together. We have a school in the city where at that time a center for cloud technologies was already functioning. So it was on the basis of that cloud technology center, we decided to launch our educational portal. To launch the portal and to fill it, just for you to understand, a portal is a place where we have gathered all possible links, all possible teaching files to see how different teachers plan their classes and different subjects. What do we have here today? Now, every subject, every discipline, and every class is represented with a separate page. And if one enters this portal, one can choose a class, a subject, the subject of a class. And if you enter it, unfortunately, you cannot see it very well, but you would see that, for example, classroom number 1 is the Ukrainian literature for class number 4 on the 4th of September. So roughly in the same ways as our teachers plan their curricula, we have built it in the similar way in this portal as regards the structure of delivery of the educational materials. For every subject, there are some lecture notes, speaking notes, links to the videos, links to various presentations. And it is always possible to download electronic manuals that the teachers had used when they filled this portal. Today, we have downloaded more than 10,000 classes of such, well, files for such classes. At the moment in this portal, we already have the materials for webinars, how our teachers conduct them online. We have links to the All Ukrainian online school. We're getting ready for the national test for the Olympic reserve schools, because even online, we have never stopped providing consultations to our children to participate in different Olympic, well, kind of Olympic games. Well, of course, the project was the curators of it were principals and head teachers of various schools who would upload their own texts and materials or provide links to the other texts found online. Because the main problem was to learn how to find proper texts and materials online. There is a lot of material there. And in order to make heads and tail among those huge masses of texts for the teachers and for the parents and the students, we have grouped it all in one portal. As in our city, we have 43 out of school facilities, educational institutions, and they're also working remotely now. We have realized that when we just started working online, we realized that our children have to communicate, that they want to continue studying, including extracurricular activities. That's why we had such a separate section here called extracurricular activities. And here you see that you have 932 classes developed by our extracurricular trainers where anyone can join it at any time and visit any of those 932 classes at any time. We realized that although we would be physically separated from one another, where children would stay at home almost all of the time. So, of course, for the children and their parents, they required psychological assistance to survive this coronavirus lockdown. And that's why we set up such a chapter called Practical Psychology. The Psychological Service has uploaded its own texts here. This year, we took another step ahead. We decided that we needed to have practical psychology today, talking simply about difficult things. We're now creating this kind of a educational series about practical psychologies. We already have 5 videos as part of the psychological series. One can enter it, one can watch it. There are some very good recommendations and guidelines for the parents and children and the teachers. What do we have today? What are our results? I think that the number of visits to our portal, and that's almost 66,000, speaks for itself. The portal is popular, and children and their parents and the teachers tell us that the portal should continue working, that everyone needs it. Well, it may not be perfect. We understand that because perfection can never be reached, but the portal is in demand. And we're very happy about that because the work we have done was not in vain. To stimulate the teachers so they can work in the portal so that their work would be appreciated. We have given certificates to the teachers for filling the portal with their materials. In 2020, 2021, we have awarded 848 teachers with such certificates. And we have recommended to the school principals we have regulations, related to the functions of the portal. So we have recommended to the head teachers and principals that during every attestation of the teachers, they should take into account the way they work in this portal. So that the teachers have shared their experience, which means that they have in fact received this advanced training, and so the certificate should be taken into account. I can certainly tell you that this form during the quarantine restrictions was a correct one. We have not stopped. We will keep improving our portal. Today, we still face several challenges. The first one is to motivate children to work, not only with our portal, but in general during any kind of remote modes of studies. We understand that we need to teach the children how to work independently and autonomously, because we have seen when we survey their parents that unfortunately today not all the children are ready to work online today. And so we need to motivate them. And second, well, the other challenge we are facing, unfortunately, not every family has proper equipment at home to work online. Not every family has access to internet. That's why as we worked online this year, and we have been working, let's say, a month online, when another lockdown was announced, we have realized those problems. So those educational establishments that face most of such challenges, they should, of course, apply some combined solutions where the education would be both offline and online, a mixed form where children would be able to visit some individual classes at school. So we see our problems and we will keep working on them in the future.
Вам дякувати, але, на жаль, вже
Thank you. You know, you exceeded your time twice, and we have a lot of other people to speak. Online training is a very good scene, and a lot of parents actually learned a lot. That's something that they skipped when they studied. Thank you for your experience. Let me give the floor to Shumsk community, Ternopil region. Dear colleagues, we have 5 minutes for the presentations. Please respect others.
перепрошую, місто Шумськ.
Shumsk, are you here? Shumsk?
Добре, можливо, тоді
Okay, then MENA, Chernihiv region. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be with the soulmates, people of the same mind. It was really interesting to listen to the presentations. I made a lot of notes, a lot of interesting ideas. Let me share what we have. Some accomplishments, maybe not really major ones. We are less than 6 months old. But anyways, we do have some achievements. I'm talking about the Center of Professional Development of Educational Workers of MENA Town Council. We have 2 consultants, an accountant, and a director. You see how many people we are working for. That's more than 500, 564 to be more exact. So that's a challenge, but that's an interesting challenge. One of the criteria of effective management of educational institutions in our community is quality of education. And the key factor that defines the quality of education is the level of professionalism or qualification of the teachers that should be the responsibility of the Center of Professional Development of Educators. We clearly understand that to be useful and interesting for our target audience and enjoy the trust of the community, to do that, we need to change the paradigm of perception of educators by the community and the center that was just established. So that's why we decided to follow effective communication. We gave up on the hierarchy of vertical communication, and we are communicating as partners through the synergy. The main message for the teachers is nothing for you without you. So our center is meeting specific needs of the teachers. We are not imposing anything of our own. Jointly with them, we develop the opportunities for further development of their professionalism and make sure that they implement their creative initiatives in friendly environment through constructive cooperation. The format of communication is peer-to-peer, and it proved effective. We introduced the communication platform that allows to accomplish professional success. Here we have formal and informal education organized for the teachers of MENA and Berezhnyanska communities. We discuss various issues, organize workshops, trainings, master classes, with the speakers being not just the guest experts or consultants, but the teachers of the community themselves. The partners in these events are Association of Ukrainian Cities, Association of the Principals of Schools, the Quality of education service. We were winners in a contest and participated the project reform of the education challenges to amalgamated communities. This project is implemented by the Center for Educational Initiatives jointly with the experts of the civil organization European Dialogue, supported financially by the US Embassy in Ukraine. Within the framework of this project, we initiated establishing the public, rather civic council at the educational department and further interagency cooperation between various departments. uh, and this allows for for several communities to jointly face the challenge of professional development of teachers at the local level. Our cooperation is subject to adjustment. We provide educational services to Berezhnyanska community free of charge, but hopefully in the future we'll be able to make some money on that too. We know that the reform of the new Ukrainian school does not include art schools, but having analyzed the incentives available at this stage, we as local government initiated introducing art classes that includes dancing, at least for the primary schools. That's the music school that we have. And we have primary school students or even preschool age students. And upon request of parents, we decided just to include them as well. And it was supported by the parents. COVID-19 quarantine restrictions encouraged us to acquire new skills and new digital educational resources, develop the skills of safe conduct so that parents, teachers, and students feel safe. So everybody spends more time working with computers or gadgets, and therefore we had to organize training on information security for teachers to start with. So we organized a set of events on information security for teachers, parents, and anybody who wanted to join it from the community. Thanks to successful branding, Yana Oleksenko, a young teacher, represented Oblast at the national contest of the Teacher of Year 2021 in the category Ukrainian language and literature, and won the fourth place there. So that's unprecedented, and we are very proud of that. That's the best result for this year when you talk about the entire region. Yana was awarded with the Revelation of the Year award from Taras Kremlin, the language ombudsman, and honorary teacher Vasil Schuler. It's really very nice that we have teachers of this caliber in our community. So let me just recap that jointly with our team and active citizens, active educators, we believe that synergy of experience, ideas, and aspirations of the people that get united around new projects, innovative projects, is the prerequisite for sustainable development of the community. We are open for new projects and cooperation with anybody who is keen on a partnership around the values of education. Thanks to all of you, and wish all of us be successful in education in your communities. Thank you, Olena. as practice shows, you shouldn't have too many educational institutions and have millions of citizens to be progressive in education. Thank you. The floor is given to Ostrogo Rivne Oblast. Good afternoon. Can you hear me? Yes. Mayor of Ostrogo. I will talk about the things that we have accomplished in our community. Our message is Ostrogo is the city that unites. The town was set up in 1066. So we have Ostrogo Academy that is known to the country and it is known internationally. That's an ancient town that we live in, and we have one of the historic sites here. That's on the left, the picture what we used to have, and on the right, that's what it is now. That's called Tata Tower, but that's a cultural hub. That's a project implemented back in 2018. It was a lot of work invested in that. It was a common effort of volunteers of the community to not only reconstruct the site, but also to beautify the surrounding area. The purpose was to the historic site and turn that into the center to have events organized there. Now, we had a festival organized there in 2018. We had the concert of Picardiska Tercia there, and they liked it. We do have a lot of events organized there. You are very welcome to come. Next slide. That was a very interesting project. That's a different project. We had an abandoned basement, and we decided to turn that into an open space for young people. 107,000 hryvnia were invested in that. We engaged volunteers developing the country together. 45 people worked on the renovation. 45,000 were invested into that. Again, we won the project for multimedia equipment with 135 hryvnia, and we organized a gym there, and young people were glad to come and just spend their leisure in this club. Now, next slide, we have another program of the national exchanges plus card that's for the students of Ostroga Academy. They have students exchanges with different colleges and universities. There were 11 colleges and universities that participated in that. I'm not going to detailize that, but that's very important to have the communication of our students with the students of other universities of Ukraine. Next slide. We have participatory budget in our community. Initially, it was introduced as a pilot project for 2 years, but it proved to be very effective, and we saw that everybody is actively engaged, including young people. We've received around 20 applications. 2 have been implemented, 3 are under consideration, and for the next year, we have increased the budget to be earmarked for participatory budget up to 100,000 hryvnia, and we have large and small projects there. The total budget is around 1 million for participatory budget. Next slide, you may have heard about that, but it was very nice, and we were honored to win in the national competition, Youth Capital of Ukraine 2022, and we'll do our best to organize a very good contest next year. That's for the youth of our country. So we hope to see many young people who would come to participate in our youth forum. And in the course of this year, we are going to have around 200 various events organized. So hopefully will be a good youth capital of the country. We are a small town, 20,000 people, but we have around 6,000 young people aged less than 30. And again, we have National University of Stroga Academy here. So dear colleagues, you are very welcome to come to our beautiful town. We'll be very happy to see in the youth capital of Ukraine of 2022. Thank you. Thank you very much. I am honored to talk to two mayors, Nadi and Yuri.
Да, щойно ми побачили такі,
We've
скажімо, певні успіхи,
seen
і дуже
success accomplished by various communities, really excellent practices. I wish all of us to implement the best ideas. Ina, thank you for the invitation to participate. I see Yuri Fomichov, who is going to make the presentation, right? Or who is going to moderate the next session? Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Hennady. As to presentations, all these presentations are going to be available at the website of the Association of Ukrainian Cities. Feel free to use the experience of your counterparts. The next session is going to be engaging citizens to protect the environment. And Yuri Fomichov, Mayor of Slavutich, is going to moderate it. Good afternoon. Can you hear me? Well, yes. Happy to see all of you. Happy to hear your excellent presentations, excellent event. That's a super marathon. That's a very cool event and good practices in so many areas on open government, on engaging citizens, on inclusiveness, excellent presentations on engaging youth. That's probably the most important scene. Slavutich is going to moderate the session on environmental issues and protection of the environment. We are the youngest town that appeared as a result of the disaster, and people were not engaged in decision-making process then. And given that large-scale disaster that we've been through, we turned out to be very pragmatic. A very simple example, a couple of years ago, we had public hearings, and that was very important to engage citizens in decision-making process on environmental issues. And public hearings is a very good tool to have that, especially when we need to make a decision on having some plants that could be risky for the environment. And Slavutich agreed to have the plant and processing harmful waste. Because that shows how professional we all are. Well, it wasn't built for technical issues, for the deficiencies in design, but it was a huge work that we conducted when discussing it. And today we face new challenges globally. New green agreement for Ukraine is a huge challenge for Ukraine. When European partners talk about a carbon-free economy that should be in place, we do understand that everything should be changed, and our attitude to environment should change in our communities. And when you talk about environment, it's not about today, that's about the future, that's about the children. And here we have our experience as well.
I can tell you about our practice about the agreement among the mayors for environment. We have had a week to make popular sustainable development, to introduce energy efficiency in our work, and we did it via our children, and it works the best. It was the McDonald's principle, as I called it. Let's build a facility where children would come and they would bring their parents, and parents would bring their money. It works in the same way to introduce energy efficient measures and to protect our environment. When we tell the children why we need that and how it works, and then a young child from a kindergarten comes back home and asks his father why they don't have an energy efficient lamp bulb. So fathers start thinking about perhaps doing something wrong in their life. But there are places, cities that are ready to share their experience with us today, how they work with the citizens. And our train is now going to a potential city that was even supposed to have the Ministry of Environment, as our president announced not long ago. Well, as we understand his emotions that he had when he met the residents of Kryvyi Rih, his own city, a city with powerful industry, but with lots of challenges in terms of environment. We've heard about the experience of Kryvyi Rih in terms of education, a very good experience. And now, please, your presentation and your story about your environment. How does Kryvyi Rih today work with the environmental problems? Good afternoon, everybody, all the colleagues. Can you hear me? Yes, we can. I want to present to you today our practice of covering the data about the quality of air as regards echo monitoring module. The urban monitoring system, we've been building it since 2012. We now have 5 posts of automatic monitoring in the city. All the posts have certified gas analyzers, dust analyzers, meteo stations, and we monitor 9 different minerals, such as ammonia, such as dust, ozone levels, and H2 and others, starting 2016 to provide relevant information to the residents on the air quality. With an echo monitoring module at our official website, we've started publishing the data from those automatic posts, and online data is published there. At the moment, such eco monitoring modules, the residents can use them to look at 31 automatic monitoring posts, of which 5 are in the city and 23 are at industrial enterprises. And 3 other posts from a village have joined our monitoring of a territorial community in Kharkiv, and they're all located, those posts, in the industrial areas. At the electronic map of the city, one can see the places where those automatic monitoring posts are located, and we can see the maximum concentrations that are updated every hour. And on a daily basis, you can see the average daily concentration of various substances. You can always watch the wind direction, the atmospheric pressure, the temperature. This public echo monitoring has a database where one can look, at the data for any period starting 2016. Since October of 2020, we have introduced the practice of publishing information about grave meteorological conditions or unfavorable conditions. Here you can see that this is information about meteorological conditions that are about to set in. Some more detailed information about the monitoring system, our automated system. We've published a booklet that can be easily accessed in this eco monitoring electronic module. Starting early 2020, every month the eco monitoring modules publish an environmental digest with generalized information about the air quality on a monthly basis and the annual basis. This is collated information that is provided by the Department of Analysis of the Institute of Krevi Development. In 2018, the Eco Monitoring Module has won Kyiv Smart City competition. To make it convenient, a mobile application has been developed, MyKryvyi, where eco monitoring is a separate service. And that way, the city urban monitoring system allows one to see the real state and quality of the air, possible sources of contamination, and develop realistic plans to improve air quality to create comfortable living conditions for the residents. It also allows for public control of the air quality and to see how effectively industrial enterprises comply with their obligations. At the same time, it makes the businesses more effective in their compliance with the requirements. Thank you, Oksana. Thank you very much. It was very interesting, especially to see mobile apps where people can use it and even get, better weather forecasts. So this openness and accessibility, I hope, helps you find a better dialogue with the residents, with the citizens in terms of the environmental state in Kryvyi Rih. Thank you very much. Lots of success to you. And I hope the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Environment probably should not move to Kryvyi Rih. You will be able to take care of your problems by yourselves. Thank you very much, friends. Our next station is Zhytomyr, one of the cities that is close to Kiev, to the megapolis. Now I was to Zhytomyr. What kind of interesting developments you have there? What kind of interesting practice in terms of citizen engagement? Thank you. Good afternoon. Can you hear me? Yes, we can. Thank you. Valentina Sadler. I am Deputy Head of Department of Infrastructure Projects, Energy Efficiency and Promotion for the Department of Economic Development, Zhytomyr City Council. Today we'll tell you about the communication concept for energy efficiency and climate change in Zhytomyr during our annual Days of Sustainable Energy. Zhytomyr in 2012 joined the European initiative, the Agreement of Mayors, and in fact suggested that it would reduce CO2 by 20% till 2020. As part of this initiative, we have the Sustainable Energy Days every year to inform the residents of the community about different modern ways how to effectively use energy resources and to engage sustainable and renewable sources of energy as part of the general European policy to combat climate change. Thanks to those events, we have been able to develop better cooperation between the government and the community to use different targeted technologies for sustainable resources. So what are our communication goals? First of all, is to popularize, to make the idea of sustainable development of the community popular, to develop cooperation of the authorities with the citizens, and to engage different target audiences to effective use of energy resources and renewable sources of energy. Till 2020, In the community, we had offline activities. However, COVID made us all move to the new generation, online generation activities. So we have moved almost all of our communication concept online, and we opened up some new channels and tools for ourselves. If we used to have activities for children, mostly in the open air, and such as competitions of drawings or all sorts of games. In 2020, during the coronavirus, we had them online, and where we provided them with videos with all sorts of interesting tests and cartoons to show them how waste management, waste should be treated, what climate change is about. We disseminated all them via Facebook and Instagram. The activities for the owners of multi-apartment buildings. Here you can see in this presentation, on the left side, you see an event that took place in 2019, where we had the sightseeing tours to the companies, enterprises that produce energy efficient equipment. But in 2020, we had an online fair of energy efficiency for the heads of the high-rise buildings. For energy managers of state-owned enterprises were also conducted online, and incidentally, we managed to organize in 2020 trainings for energy effective use of the buildings and the equipment, which was joined by energy managers from different parts of Ukraine. Now, the general advertisement campaign we conducted via TV sources, resources, and the different social media. An important achievement to engage a broader audience was for us such an event as participation of the city top managers in the Sustainable Energy Days. In 2020, we recorded a video address of the mayor because about the environmental footprint and correct use of plastics, environmental protection, consequences of climate change, and also about renewable sources of energy. So I'd like to use this opportunity to announce that in Zhytomyr in 2021, we're also going to have the Sustainable Energy Days. We plan to have them between October 25 and 29, with the slogan of "Let's meet the European energy system." So we invite you to participate in our events and activities, and also have the same kind of activities in your own territories, and support this initiative. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you for having listened to me. Thank you very much, Valentina. Thank you for this wonderful presentation. Lots of greetings to Zhytomyr, lots of successes to you, lots of your greetings to your mayor, who used to be president of our association, and now I've taken over this important position from him. And I hope that all the communities of Ukraine would join the mayor's agreement, because the climate change and getting adapted to it is a huge challenge that Ukraine is facing and Ukrainian communities will face in the coming years. I'd like to use this opportunity to welcome you to visit Slavutich, the small culture capital city of Ukraine, and we would always be happy to see our guests. I'm giving the moderation back to our moderators and thank you very much for everyone for a wonderful presentation. Thank you, Yuri. I first of all want to greet you with your election. I wanted to greet you, but you've said it yourself. Slavutich has always played, the first violin. It's always very important to see how you keep winning all sorts of events. I'd like to get back to a question that I tried to put at the very beginning, when I said that now we would try to decide together with you about what kinds of practices that you would all like to use all of you and people in chat and on YouTube can also write about what practice of all those that you have heard about you would like to use. For those of you on Zoom, you have a chat and you have a link to Google Form. It's very simple. You just have to choose one or several practices that you have heard about today. It does not mean that we're going to do any ratings to decide who the best one is. We just want to see whether anything has been interesting for you. So please join us. Please make your own small contribution to this process to show us that you have been listening attentively and you want to use something in your territorial community. And we have been watched quite actively by our experts. I would like to finally give them the floor because we never have the time for it. Girls, I don't know who of you is ready to start. Yes, please, our experts. Finally, the floor is yours. Good afternoon. I'm Alexandra Koidel. Thank you very much for giving us the floor. Together with Oksana Hus, she's also present in this audience. We were very interesting as we listen to the open government practices that are used in Ukraine at different levels, and we have made a number of conclusions. First of all of our speakers, they see that open governance is not just an objective, but as a tool set to answer the local government challenges. And these challenges are very different from climate changes to pandemic cost changes to the issue of how we can preserve our young people to make them stay in our cities and towns, and this can be done thanks to open governance. I understand that open governance for all of you means that you can redesign local management at all the levels. We see that in large cities and small towns and newly created communities on various levels, regardless of the size of the community, open governance is practiced and very successfully. And finally, the third thing, open governance also changes the way how different departments and units coordinate their work to get how they work with the central government, with the civil society, moving away from hierarchical relations toward partnership and cooperation. We could see that in all of your initiatives. Now, what does that change of practices mean? First of all, we have seen that the local authorities are ready to hear, to listen, to take into account the needs of their residents, internal clients. When we talk about educationalists and how they cooperate with them, we have also noticed that you in fact meet the needs of the residents when you develop your policies, and your residents become co-owners, in fact co-designers of your policies. We have also noticed that you now look at your communities as something whole. You use inclusion. You look at the needs of various groups of the population. You adapt the engagement format so that people with different technical skills and also with different physical possibilities could have equal participation in the process of open government. And all of this objective, all of your presentations were permeated with the idea that we are building trust by creating transparent channels of communication, by engaging, by taking the first steps toward transparency and accountability. We have also identified several principles that have been used in all the initiatives, such as accessibility, how we communicate easy language, how we do that in order to be heard. We saw how important this is for you, and you have shared some wonderful ideas, for example, such as books on the budget, or other bestsellers, or entertainment, as one of the speakers said. This open government can be entertaining, so we can see how important this is for you. Dialogue, the next principle is, and it's also very important that we have seen how you look for resources. So there are challenges, you look for resources to meet them, and you create partnerships with the local businesses, with foreign donors. You look for resources inside the communities, and all of that mobilizes the community members. And the huge purpose, the huge goal of all that is that by doing that, you create a new generation of people, of citizens who are brought up within the spirit of this democratic participation, and so that they become not only clients but also partners for you. And finally, I will make probably uh, I will add to what Mr. Kiefer said at the very beginning, that the next step on which the Congress will work is to develop deliberative democracy and how we can talk about dialogue and the cooperation even more. And we should say that the practices that have been shown to us today they already contain elements of this deliberative democracy. Thank you all very much. Thank you for giving me the floor.
Я бажаю вам успіху
I wish you success. Thank you, Alexander. Well, thank you for staying away from emotions and single out really important things. Thank you very much indeed. It's very nice that we presented interesting practices. That's the largest event that is organized and united local authorities, and we can be proud of this marathon. Indeed, that's a huge event. And let me give the floor to the Council of Kiev City Council, chair of the Ukrainian delegation to the Congress, Lilia Pashina. Thank you. Thank you, dear colleagues, for your inspirational work. It's very nice to hear and see you at this absolutely incredible event. We've had the presentations, the success stories of more than 20 communities in various sectors and areas. But there is one uniting theme, that's open local government. In the course of last 2 years, we see how open government is spreading, that is based on transparency, openness, and accountability. Accountability, and it's not only about e-tools, it's much broader idea. We see the change in the approaches to the governance, and it's very important for the success stories of some communities could be turned in good practices and scaled out all over Ukraine. We'll keep working on disseminating our experience among other countries, and we'll borrow the best practices from other countries. Ukrainian delegation to the Congress is really keen on expanding cooperation so that the issues of open government will become always on the agenda. As the chair of the Ukrainian delegation to the Congress, I will do my best to further promote cooperation between the Congress and local authorities in Ukraine and expand best practices here and internationally. Through our concerted efforts, we'll make local government more transparent, accountable, and open. Thank you for today's event. Thank you, Lilia, for your words, and all the best to our delegation. It's good to have women representation there, and will be smart and beautiful, and international community will see that Ukraine does have success stories to share and good practices to disseminate international, that would contribute to better image and reputation of our country. Let's go back to the results. So what kind of outcome do we have in this polling? Interesting results. The leader is Demidivka. We've seen practices that can be implemented in virtually any region of Ukraine. That's a very good slide. I think we need to keep it in mind. Mariupol, thank you for voting for it, 5 votes. If we have any polling in YouTube, I would appreciate that. Maybe some speakers would like to say a few words. We have several minutes to exchange our impressions before we conclude. If you want to speak, just turn your mic on. Anybody to speak? I guess we are all a bit tired. So let's recap. Let's sum up our event. We've exceeded 5 minutes only. Let me thank all of you sincerely. Let me thank the Congress of Regional and Local Authorities for supporting this idea. It's very important for local self-government to be heard. We want to be engaged in various events. We want to be engaged in policy making. As Olena from MENA said, well, nothing for us without us. That's a very important principle. If we are talking about the policies that are meant for local governments, then local governments should be engaged at all stages of it, not only at the final stage of the discussion of policy or paper. Let me thank all and every participant. We keep on improving us. We want to make sure that every community is transparent and open. We want to make sure that all citizens of the community are engaged in decision-making process. We want to be part of international OGP community, and we want to see best practices practically implemented, since we do have success stories that we can share. Thank you very much to all of you. See you soon. Enjoy the night. Let me thank the organizers of this event. That's the best event that I've seen, and it's a very important event. Let me pick up from the previous speakers who encouraged exchange, communication. Let me join in and well, encourage all of us to stay in touch, exchange our experience, be successful, and enjoy what you are doing. See you. Thank you. Let me thank all of you on behalf of the Congress, on behalf of the Congress of Local and Regional Authorities that implements the Council of Europe project. Let me thank all the participants for commitment to the principles of open local government and local democracy. Let me wish you success. Let me say that each of the sessions that we had today is worth in-depth discussion, and it is worth to having a separate event on each of the subjects we discussed, and it deserves a full day event because that's important to exchange best practices that we amassed. It's very important that today's event was organized as part of the International Week of Open Government. As it was mentioned, during this week in various countries, we have various events on various subjects with different participants. And it's very important that Ukrainian local governments show their success stories. Today's event is going to be in Ukrainian and in English on YouTube channel, and all your presentations are going to be available there. They are going to be stored and further disseminated, and hopefully that in upcoming future, Congress of Local and Regional Authorities will provide further support to local authorities to implement your ideas and projects. Let me thank the participants. Let me thank the moderators. Ina, thank you very much for moderating it. Thank you, dear colleagues.